All right. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Cheryl Good and
I'm Mary George.
all righty. And we are doing a little seminar this morning on cultivating healthy habits. What's the secret? And excited to be with you, people from Kicking Cancer, and with those that are listening in. I'm fans of Kicking Cancer, an organization that's been doing so much great stuff in the world, especially in the Pacific Northwest, but they are kicking cancer all over the world. Follow them on Facebook to hear what they're actually doing and how they're accomplishing it. Let's kick it off with talking about some little bit about ourselves here, so you know who you're with today. Mary, why don't you start? Actually, Mary, how about you introduce yourself?
Okay.
Well, because you've got a great story with these. Let me just read what we got here. Mary not only brings habits of health alive with her storytelling, she's also has a passion for kids being healthy, and it starts with bringing families together and having them be healthy. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story, Mary.
Yeah, everybody, I think there isn't anybody you talk to who doesn't know the wealth in being healthy, like the value of that. We all want it. And everybody's got a different definition of it. And so sometimes we can think people don't need it. And that's kind of where I was. I was working really hard at it. And often people would wonder why. Like for the most part, I looked pretty healthy, and I was, but I had a definition of what I wanted that to look like and how it felt. But not only that, my dad was really a big influence on health and healthy habits. Like we grew up in that arena. So I had some good habits I brought with me, but I wasn't able to really meet the goals that I had. And so, 11 years ago it's been, I found this program. It literally, and I approached it like a diet because that was the only two alternatives, right? Oh, you must be on a diet. And I really hadn't dieted before. And then I found this program, and what it did was put me in a structure and put me in a very teachable place. The program was super simple to follow. I didn't really have to think about all the cooking and chopping and shopping that I had done the previous year and was not seeing results. And and it just bam, 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 that weight just came right off the scale, and I was astonished. And then it made me think about moms, because for 20 years as a mom, I had 5 kids. Like I could never lose that weight that I wanted to lose. And how many moms I knew sat out to the side and didn't interact with their kids or their families or their husbands in the way that probably they did when they were younger, first starting a family, because of how they felt about their bodies. It wasn't like they wanted it to be. So I just thought, man, why would not anybody want to even try it? Like it's nothing to lose except the weight. But what it did was put me in a very teachable place of not only offering it to people, but to see how many lives I could change. Well, and I won't even take the credit for that. The only reason that their life changed was because they said yes. But the program really did all the heavy lifting. I just got to be the cheerleader. So that's where we are today. And, it's just made a huge difference. And I really have, legacy is really important to me. So not just my kids, they got to hear all this change and transformation we went through, but then my grandkids too. And I do believe that if we can bring health to families and specifically start with the moms, because a lot of times they're the ones doing the cooking and the shopping and whatever. And we can show them it doesn't have to be willpower. They can succeed at this. They can really change their family's health, because at some point you'll have to pay for it one way or another, like either being sick or you get to enjoy life, right? You might have to buy new clothes, the other end. But that's it in a nutshell. And Cheryl, you
so great. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, let me finish up. That willpower into skill power was created through habits. And I'm looking forward to you bringing that more into our chat as well here. So it'll be really fun to see.
Well, and I mean, Cheryl has such a great story too. I mean, Cheryl's an organic farmer. We've been friends for a long time. And sometimes you might think, well, she's got all the goods right at her farm. But just her being open and curious to see how this program could benefit her. And so she's had a great transformation. I wish we had like your before and after to throw up here, but
Oh
tell
yeah.
me the story.
Well, I'll share a little bit. I'm showing picture because I love having fun. And this is a picture of a treasure chest that I took on a pirate ship earlier this year. And we had all dressed up for it and traveled 5 hours to jump onto a pirate ship and have some fun. But I love assisting people in unlocking the treasure in their lives. And that has all been around habits, but it started with me. So I thanks for the opportunity to share that. And I'll stop that so you can see me. Yeah, for me, where it started was I didn't even know what I didn't know. I didn't even know I was dissatisfied. I was sitting there just thinking this is how life is going to be. And my dear friend Mary came into me like a little butterfly, just touching and tickling me and saying, is there something else over here, Miss Cheryl Good? And ended up being super fun because we connected in so many different ways. But she knew that the answer wasn't just in organic whole foods eating. Like she knew there was something else out there. And she also probably had an eye that I think I shared with her that I could probably lose about 20 pounds. Right. And, but I wasn't willing to invest time and energy into that because I thought I was okay. I was fit, I'm okay. Like, it's not like I'm obese or something. I eat organic. I eat well, that sort of thing. And I wore it like a badge of honor. But in fact, it was just a habit. It's just how I ate. I ate rice and beans and vegetables, and my body does not like that many carbs. In fact, my family of origin has diabetes so many different places. It comes down from every grandparent, from every line, from my parents all the way down. And I was headed to the same trajectory of the habit of eating, just being unintentional around your eating habits. Farmers, but that doesn't mean it was healthy. So when I took a closer look at what I needed to be doing, turns out by adopting some new habits, I was able to drop not just 20 pounds, but 35 pounds in just a series of 3.5 months like that. And more importantly, I was able to adopt new healthy habits to be able to keep the weight off, but most importantly, balancing blood sugar and putting in new habits in my life so I'm more fulfilled. So I'm not going to food for fulfillment. We have this saying that we say you fuel yourself with food, you don't fill yourself or fulfill yourself with food. And that was new for me because I definitely went to the bowl of popcorn way too often to numb my emotions because I wasn't really happy with where I was at. So a little bit of my story. Glad I could share it.
Yeah, it's so great. And I love that, everybody has some kind of a story or even a story they've made up as to why they are where they are. Mm-hmm. But once you get a taste of what's possible and then you backfill it with habits, there's a law in nature that says only one habit can be replaced by another habit. So if we're going to be ruled by our habits, let's be ruled by good habits. Let's form good habits and then follow them. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about for people as we, for kicking cancer, and just anybody who wants to move forward in their health. Like, how do you create this? It starts with your habits, and sometimes the habit is. This might be a little bit, I may need to come back to this, but are you in the habit of being around, allowing others to support you? Because that is a habit of, do you allow others in? Will you allow somebody to help you be accountable to what your goals are? Or do you have the habit of like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. It's never worked out for me. And you're in the habit of bringing past failures forward. Like these are environments that we bring around us and that can determine the level of habits that we have. So
I have a habit of doubting myself, and I'm looking to replace that. Like I notice it's a habit, something happens, I doubt myself. Other people have a habit of something happens, they judge and assess somebody else. They get mad at somebody else. It's just a habit loop.
Yeah.
And you can create something new from that. And, if I pause for 3 hours, 3 weeks, 3 months on moving ahead on a goal, then that's going to have me just slow down on the goal. That habit does not assist me in moving ahead on goals. If I just pause for 3 minutes or 3 seconds, a new habit is created and I'm back in action again, achieving goals of whatever that is.
Yeah. And it's interesting because comfort is a habit. Are you in the habit of being comfortable? Because that will often also stagnate our growth. We just want to be comfortable.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. We want to talk about gateway habits?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's fill up a quick slide here.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There
There's a
it is.
mindset behind this. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the mindset, I love this. Like once the idea of stacking up dominoes, and the whole idea is once you push that first domino, if you've lined everything up, it's just going to follow a certain trajectory, right? A certain path. You don't line it up. If something is off, it could send it off, could stop somewhere. Like if one of those dominoes were not really lined up to squarely hit, right, it could go off in another way. So mindset is very important in these gateway habits. And so an idea around that is you come home from work, and do you put on your workout shoes or do you pick up the remote? That's a gateway habit, because whichever one you choose, your evening is going to look very different than the other evening. Are you looking for comfort, or are you looking to maybe work off some of the stress of the day and really go into the evening feeling like I had a great day today. I finished off strong, and I'm giving time to myself. I'm not just sitting on the couch and trying to get away from all like what happened at work today. And so you think about that, whether it's going out for a walk, or you hit the gym, or biking, or playing with your kids, right? Which are you going to do? Another might be when you go shopping. That kind of, you think about, well, what's the gateway habit for shopping? It could be, do you start off with a list, like very intentional? I'm going in the store, I'm grabbing these things, and I'm going to shop around the outside. I'm not going to spend time in the middle, because that's where the habits of disease are, in the middle of the store. So having the gateway habit of, I know what I'm going into the store for, I'm not going hungry, right? Fueling yourself before you go. Those are all gateway habits that will decide, because whatever you put in that cart and go through, that ends up in your car also ends up in your pantry, which then ends up you eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's another habit, like you deciding instead of having it decide for you.
Totally. I'll do some meal prep sometimes. I don't spend a lot of time with meal prep, but the weeks that I do a little bit of it, it means the right food's in my house so that the meals are more likely to be prepared, and then we prepare the healthy meals. The weeks that I don't do that, the food doesn't end up in my house. I grab whatever's in the pantry, which might be rice, which isn't terrible, but it's not great for my blood sugar.
Yeah. Or not even at all. It's like going through the drive-through. I don't have time. Like the gateway habits of, just taking your day and really pulling it apart and being open and honest about what does my week look like? Why do I run through the fast food? Is it because I'm out of time? I don't like to cook. I'm stressed. I'm tired. I work, you're looking at, well, what is your work bringing you? Staying in something when there are other ways to work yourself out of that. And that leads to the other one around money, right? When you think about why people don't move forward, money, mentorship, and habits, right? Those habits that we create around there. And the habits we have, well, I just get up, I go to work, I don't think about it, I do my job, I come home, and I need to unload somewhere. Right? It's all bottled up. But could there be something where you can create better habits on that backside? So, sometimes when people say, well, they stay at the same job that makes the same amount of money, but they expect to be in a different place in a year. And so what is the habit around your money? Are you a consumer? Or do you plan for how you are going to move forward? Do you have options where you can create your fortune on the side? Because with cancer, in this specific case, there's a lot of extra expenses, a lot.
There are. Mm-hmm.
And
just the gas to chemo when you, especially in here in Oregon, you're usually heading up to OHSU.
mm-hmm.
Or you're out to work.
Right. You know, my dad passed away 2 years ago to cancer. And just 2 months ago, we got another bill for $18,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of dough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think, wow, it took them that long to get that out to us. Right. So then, so all the expenses around sending that to an attorney and saying, hey, and then so there's expenses there. And may still end up paying the 18 plus the attorney fees. So it's looking at, instead of it just happening to you, again, are you in a community of people that will help you grow in a way that will interrupt your own habit loop of your own thinking?
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Yeah, we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And what I noticed a while ago was me, myself, and I aren't a great average. So let's add some more people in and hang out with some more upbeat people that are going after what they can do and really seeing life as happening for us rather than to us, and not waiting just for something to come by. And saying, let's go get it. Let's go after it. Let's have something. What if this was the perfect way that I created the life I love?
Yeah.
What if?
Yeah. I love that question. What if?
Mm-hmm. So great.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about habits and how we actually create them. Does that work?
Sure.
All right. Oh, guess I need to share the screen. That's great. Let's share the screen. All right. The habit loops. This is our skill set. So we often talk about mindset, skill set, and an action. You need all 3 of them, especially if you're determining why you aren't moving ahead. So maybe you didn't have the mindset, but now you do. Mary shared a little bit about that. So the skill set is really getting down and dirty with learning how you set up habit loops. And this is coming from a lot of different avenues. Habits are really big right now. Dr. Anderson's Habit of Health, habitsofhealth.com is a really great resource there. Also Atomic Habit books. There's so many out there right now. So let's talk a little bit about this. It was just the other day I was thinking about this is what's an example of a cue happening, and then there's just an automatic response and reward. And one thing I've noticed is in my old house where I lived, there was a bathroom that did not have a light in it. So whenever you stepped into the bathroom, you flipped the switch on the side of the wall, and thus there was light and you were happy because you could see what's going on. Very simple reward. But how many of you have a similar situation when the power is out, you still walk into the room and you flip the light switch on the side, you know the power is out, but you do it anyways because you just stepped into the room because that's the loop that you do. So that's an example of a cue happening, a dark room, you want light, there's a response, you hit the light switch, and then the reward is you have light. Well, this is happening all the time, everywhere in our life. And you don't even know that loop's happening. It's so fast. Walk in the room, light switch, move your light hand. So I'm looking, what we want to do is get on that, look for habit loops that are not serving us in our lives. Okay. So one that was not serving me is the chips, a bag of chips. Chips for me was my kryptonite. I used to see a bag of chips and I have this craving for something crunchy and salty. And the response is that I eat it. And then the reward was, oh, I got to numb out for 2 seconds and I could just forget about the world for a bit because this bag of chips, it sometimes was a bowl of popcorn too. And this cue and reward was actually fashioned, I realized recently, from my family, because on Sunday nights, we would have a bowl of popcorn and we'd sit together and relax and take the world off of our shoulders, and we'd eat popcorn together. And so that cue was programmed pretty early on that something crunchy like that I get to relax with. So now when I used to see a bag of chips, I would think, oh, I can relax with a bag of chips. Didn't even know this loop was happening. Okay. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Bold
you can't go work out in the garden with a bag of chips.
No, it's just not great. I know,
You get
totally.
extra grit on those chips.
Yes. So some of the new skill sets is like, what if I don't walk down the chip aisle? I mean, I don't feel deprived. There's nothing really down there that I need to do. But after a while of walking past it, it's no longer has its pull. It's like, that's not of interest to me anymore. So I'm not longer feeling deprived because I've moved past it enough times. Another thing, a positive habit I've set up, and this was the coaching of Mary, was a new way of, I used to just eat when my habit was eating when I was bored or not fulfilled, or I needed to do something and I would go to eat, emotional eating. And so I'd find my hand on the fridge door, just mindlessly opening up to see what's new in the fridge, like I was checking the news station or something. And I was like, what's new? Let's look in the fridge. Even though I was the one that stocked it, I'm still looking. Look at it. And I got in the habit of noticing the cue of my hand on the fridge door. That's as close as I got because I didn't catch that I was unfulfilled or I was bored. And at that point, then I went ahead and ate something and I go back to relax and I got to check out for a bit. So that same thing happened. But what I did was put in a new thing. So when my hand was on the door, I noticed the craving was to chill or to relax, or maybe I needed something. And so if I didn't need a glass of water, or if it wasn't time to eat, I said, you're going to go to your coloring book, your adult coloring book, and color for 5 minutes. And that was, I got to relax, and it was a reward in that process. I felt relaxed. I could do whatever I wanted because I never allowed myself to color. So it was very satisfying. At that point, I felt fulfilled. Well, now I don't have to do that loop as quickly. When I'm starting to feel a little bit at ease, I can reward myself with something. It could be coloring. It could be going into the garden and gardening. It could be just chilling for a moment. I don't need to go through the fridge anymore. And that's been a big positive impact and me maintaining my health and maintaining what I worked with a couple of years ago to achieve.
It's such a great way to interrupt our just autopilot, because that's the definition of a habit. A habit is once you don't have to think about anymore. It just happens. And it was through coaching another client that I actually heard this idea of emotional eating, because I never considered myself emotional. I don't even thought of emotional eaters are only people, or they're sad and they sit on the couch and eat bonbons, right? That was the extent of it. And then I'm listening to a client one day prior to Cheryl, and she was saying, I do so good in the morning. Like I am rock solid. And then I notice in the afternoon, I'm standing at my pantry. And as I'm listening to her, I'm like, my gosh, that's what I do. That's what I used to do. And even after, this was still a habit, right? And I would stare at the pantry, but I had changed what I shopped for. There wasn't anything in there extra, but I still found myself at the door. And then I'm listening to her go on. She said, I decided, I got daily chores. I would save some of the mundane chores for the afternoon because I was doing them all in the morning. And that very thing really helped me to break a habit of just get up and go outside and do something. Like I love working in the yard too, in the garden. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I started doing. And that's why when we talked about it for you, it came up, what we learn, these habits we can pass on, and going back to a community of people. Are you around others who are going to have the kind of conversations and want the same outcomes? It really does matter who you're hanging out with.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome.
Good.
Cool. Well, let's get folks into action a little bit. If you're listening to this, the recording right now, let's get a little smoother at this. A little bit of action steps. So again, mindset, skill set, action. It's a way to self-diagnose where you may not be moving ahead with your habits. And maybe you just need to take the practice of taking some action. So in this case, you can pick an action, pick a healthy habit that you'd like to create. Pick a cue to start the action, and then decide on the reward for that action. And the reward sometimes is intrinsic. It just comes on its own because you feel relaxed. But But yeah, pick a cue, start the action, and then choose a new habit loop. That's going to be on you to go do. I look forward to hearing if you want to post back on this Facebook page and say, hey, this is what I created. We'd love to hear that. Or you can reach out to us directly. Be neat to hear what you're actually creating.
Yeah. And being in having that, just someone to, share the excitement of you creating a new habit. Like, I mean, I know I've been saying community, but it really does make a difference. We are, we're social animals. That's just how it is. We like to be in groups of people where we feel aligned with, and we actually thrive in that. So being around other like-minded people can actually help you in this action step. That's why Kicking Cancer was started, right? To bring people along to how they could actually take steps in their life to build better habits around their health and to avoid cancer. Only one way cancer, it comes only through health. Have you thought about that? It is the one vehicle, it attacks health. So really focusing on health is the basic, the bottom rock, bedrock, I would say, of how you will keep yourself, farther away from the potentiality of cancer, because it is actually attacking you and your health.
It's one of the things we can control. Is the controllable too. You can control your diet, you can control what you do with your body. And there's other things we might not be able to control. We don't know about genetics, we don't know about age, we don't know, but those are things we can't control. So let's focus on what we can control and go for it.
Yeah.
Lots of science behind insulin resistance as well with cancer. And that's why a lot of people who are fighting cancer are reducing the amount of sugar in their diets and the carbs in their diets, because there's lots of science out there. One of the interesting books I've been reading lately is called Why We Get Sick, and has a wonderful background on insulin resistance and how that takes away from our health and well-being.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up with your favorite quote here, Mary.
This is become my favorite quote here. I think about it in so many ways, everywhere from being, young kid at home to now as an adult and being a grandma of 17 kids, right? And 17 grandkids, and thinking about what environments they're in. And environment is that invisible hand that shapes our human behavior, our habits. And so we, like Cheryl just said, we actually can control a lot of that. Now, not every aspect of it, but there is a lot we can do. And so if we focus on what we can do, create an environment that is in our favor, be around others, create an environment where we include others and we learn from others and we cheer others on and we share, ups and downs, that also can shape the way that we have habits in our own behavior. And then that can bleed out into our families. Because if we share it there, those are often the most important relationships that we have. So that book, if you've not ever read it, I highly recommend it, The Atomic Habits. And another one that goes along really well, even more before that, is called The Habits of Health. And that's the program that we actually promote and coach people in how to have healthy transformation in their life, how to do it in a very simple way and to put you in a very teachable place, which it did for both of us. Yeah.
Really great. Well, thank you, Mary. Thanks for your time today and attention. It's been a pleasure to be here with the Kicking Cancer audience and with the fans and followers of that organization. We have so much respect for the organization, how they helped my friend Rachel move ahead with her well-being in her life. She's cancer-free now and mama of several kids. And she now is able to own a home because Kicking Cancer helped us pay off medical bills that she had. And we did a lot of fundraising for her. So that's been a great journey ahead. And the community that comes around an individual fighting cancer is an important piece of this. and helping uplift people and have them keep hope, really,
Yeah.
really being out there keeping hope. So thank you for your time today, and we look forward to more conversations.
All
You can
right.
reach Mary or I on Facebook. You'll be able to find us in different places. Thanks.
Thanks, Cheryl.